Welcome into the latest edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I am Doug Kezirian alongside professional bettor Chris Macero. It is the fourth week since we launched our show that we are beginning today, every single day, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And what do you know? Another 20-point comeback in the NBA, Chris.
I'm absolutely shocked once again. I don't know why I should be shocked because this is now the sixth time in the 2025 playoffs. Obviously, the most in NBA history. I'm not sure how far they go back on this. I know they say the play-by-play era, 1997, but six times, and that does not include the 17-point deficit that the Pacers overcame in Game 1. It does not include the 14-point deficit that the Knicks overcame in Game 4 against the Celtics. This has just been absolutely insane. You had OKC down 29 to Memphis in the first round. The aforementioned two Pacers comebacks, and then the Knicks got the Celtics twice down by 20. It's just absolutely amazing. And the only way you can bet this series is to live bet it, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get big numbers both ways. It's happened in every single game. To have a position before the game at +3 or +2.5, in my eyes, this seems kind of crazy. Unless you're trying to get down a huge amount of money, this series is perfectly ripe for live betting. Where you can get astronomical numbers both ways and just sit pretty.
Now, what Chris is alluding to is the live limits. The in-game limits are not like they are prior to the game. And for most of us, the audience here and everybody, the live limits are fairly reasonable for our unit sizes and things like that. It is kind of crazy how often you can get a better number on the closing line within the first half, let alone the entire game. So that's something I certainly understand. But sometimes I do like a certain side. Now, let's turn the page here because the Western Conference Finals got a little more interesting with the blowout victory for the T-Wolves. They are now plus 600 to come back and win this series. Obviously, Denver hung in until Game 7 last round. So this OKC team far from unbeatable, so to speak. So it's now minus 910 for Oak City on the series price. Tonight's line for Game 4, pivotal Game 4, as they like to say, 3. So the side is 3, 218 or 219. It's gone up from 218.5 to 219. I guess first things first. Game 3, blowout from the start, right? That's sort of expected from OKC, given the team's up 2-0 and off a Game 7 victory. Just in general, how do you think this fairly young OKC team will respond to that 40-plus point beatdown?
There was a moment in the fourth quarter where they kind of showed all the starters for OKC sitting on the bench together, all looking dejected. But I also thought they were thinking a little bit about, hey, we got to come back with the biggest effort we're going to have all year. And the unit that they can fall back on, which is the best in the playoffs, is definitely the OKC defense. And that's how I'm looking at this game. I think the OKC side is pretty short considering what they've been power rated all year. I know I've been critical of their power rating. Sometimes it seems like they get power rated like the 86 Celtics or 87 Lakers, but this team's been power rated strong all year. And to get them as a short money line favorite in a game where they just got embarrassed, their best unit was embarrassed. They were watching Ant in the first quarter. He hit 5 of 6, and they were kind of standing around watching him and leaving other guys wide open. And if you think Minnesota is going to hit 20 of 43s again, maybe I'm on the wrong side. But I'm looking at OKC, and one of my stronger looks is going to be the team total under for the Timberwolves. If you look over the last 3 losses in the playoffs, to Denver, OKC bounced back strong defensively, allowing 93, 87, and 106 points, an average of 95.3 points a game. Granted, yes, it's Denver, it's not Minnesota, 2 different teams. But I also looked at the fact that OKC's only lost 2 games in a row all season long. One of them was late in the year when they had already clinched the number 1 seed. The other one was early in November. They lost San Antonio and Dallas back to back. They're 16-2 straight up off a loss. They're 7-1 straight up off a loss on the road. And the team total for the opponent's team is 10-6-2 under after a loss. So I'm expecting a giant defensive effort from this team, who's been the best defensive team all year. They're just embarrassed. They watched Minnesota shoot 50% from 3. I don't think that's going to continue. And I just think a big effort, a lot of pride at stake. A guy like Caruso, some of these, big defenders who, all made all defensive teams. Dort, SGA, great defender. I really think they're going to shine tonight, and it's going to be a strong defensive effort. I expect OKC to get the win.
Okay, so you expect a motivated Thunder team to respond after an embarrassing loss. What about Minnesota? Did they find anything? Where are they going to be confident? Like, how do you expect just Minnesota to just respond after a big win? Right? They don't have quite the same desperation, although this is essentially a must-win as well. How do you expect this team? Are they mature enough to bring it from the start like they did in the last game?
Well, that's the word you just said, maturity. And I don't think this team is mature. I mean, they beat the Lakers, and what do? They go parade around the Staples Center. I get it. That's kind of something you do in high school, maybe in junior college. It's the NBA. You really shouldn't be, getting your whole security detail and you're, risking your players out in the streets of LA after you win the game. It just kind of doesn't show that you've been there, done that. In my mind, Minnesota's a talented team. They got good play. They got Ant. They have Randall. They have Gobert. They're a solid squad. Do they all put it together on the same night? Not very often. And usually when Ant has a huge night, then he usually disappears. It's just kind of the way it goes. He has the horrible night, and then he's usually due for a good night. So I'm just kind of playing the percentages here. I think the fact that OKC's been pretty strong off a loss all season long, and they've been extremely strong off losses in the playoffs. The 3 losses to Denver, like I mentioned, came back, really put the clamps on defensively. So that's exactly what I'm looking for tonight. Minnesota, they do have the home court advantage. Maybe this is just one of those home series, and it goes 7 games. But people were talking about before Game 3 that, hey, this is it. OKC is going to probably not lose another game the rest of the way in the playoffs. And now all of a sudden we're back to, oh, they're going to blow the series. So, it's just talking points every night. It's something changes. I know we talked about before the series started that we thought both series were going to go at least 6 or 7 games. We played those bets, the parlay plus 2.5 games, Indiana plus 2.5 games with Minnesota. So maybe nothing changes. Maybe it does go 6, but I really expect a really strong effort tonight. And if OKC does happen to lose, I would still think it would be a lower scoring game because I know they're going to be coming full bore on defense.
I'm with you. I think the number 3 is cheap. I mean, if you think about it, it was 3 in game 3, okay? And the spot screamed Minnesota, right? So how is the number 3 again when the spot doesn't scream Minnesota like it did in game 3? This line should be 4, 4.5. So I'm on the Thunder. I don't know if I'm pulling the trigger just yet, but it's Thunder or pass for me. In terms of the total, I do lean under. The games 2 and 3 went over. Obviously, we just had 140 plus for Minnesota in the last game, but obviously that game got away, and that was just sort of one of those outlier games. I worry about OKC a little bit based on how we saw them last round. Now they were facing the best player in the world, and Denver did have some championship metal on that roster with some of their big pieces. But this is a team that was down 2-1 and down in the fourth quarter on the money line in the live in game. So they were favored to go down 3-1 in that series on the road. So it just gives me a little pause. But again, I don't see Jokic over there on Minnesota's roster. But when Ant's at his absolute best, he's as good as anyone in the NBA. So it's not like they have pushovers, and they do have lineup flexibility. Chris Finch knows what he's doing. That's my only pause. But I think from just a matchup standpoint, I think the side that you can only consider is Thunder -3 here.
Well, another factor too is when a team shoots 50% from 3, obviously you expect some regression, but it's just human nature when you saw the ball going in so many times the game before is to shoot those threes. And a lot of times, as quickly as you can shoot yourself, back into a game, you can shoot yourself out of a game, as we saw with the Pacers last night in the fourth quarter, 1 for 7 from 3. So I'm kind of expecting a solid defensive effort, kind of like you saw from the Knicks in game 2 in the first quarter. Super solid. It was a low scoring 24-22 first quarter. I'm expecting a low scoring first quarter here again because I just can't see OKC coming out and not going all out on defense. They're going to be up in everyone's face on the 3-point line. They're going to be closing out all the corner threes. They're not going to let Ant go 5 for 6 to start the game. That's just my handicap on it. I really expect a strong defensive effort. And if you expect a strong defensive effort, you have to look towards the under.
Nice. Yeah, I would play under if I played the total as well. All right, so we're seeing eye to eye on that. Let's get into the props because there's been some I don't know, free money temptation in some of this. I want to start with Chet Holmgren's rebounds. He's gone 7, 4, and 6, easily winning the under 8.5 every series and given Bears on the front line and some other guys. This now is 7.5. So it was 8.5. The market's moved to 7.5, but under is plus money. Do you feel like this is a fire? I mean, this is like, let's not overthink it. Can we just bet this again?
I know this has been one you've been talking about every night. We've text back and forth on it, so I can see that because Chet, you know, he's a skinny guy, tall guy, 7 footer, but he's skinny. He's kind of almost looks like he wears down the game. He's in there with the
Right.
big boys, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities for big guys getting rebounds. Not to mention Anthony Edwards, who's leading the series right now. He's been all over the boards. So you're right. You mentioned you have Naz Reid, you have Gobert. You just have a lot of bodies down there that are accumulating the rebounds. Hartenstein, another one. So I like that as well. And I'm going to go over Naz Reid again because if it's not broke, don't fix it. We got there with the plus 550 in the first game at 8 rebounds or more. I've been playing it over again. He was 60. They moved it up a little bit last game to 6.5, but it still went over. He has 8. There's still an outside shot that Naz Reid could be the leading rebounder in the series. He's 3 back of Anthony Edwards right now. So I'm going to be on over Nas, and I'll probably get into this Chet under Chet rebound prop as well because I know you've been strong on that.
So I'm going to play that as well, the under, because you're getting plus money now. So the market's obviously gone from 8.5 to 7.5, but you're getting plus money now. So it's not a huge adjustment with Chet Holmgren under plus +08 versus under a different number, but like minus 140 or something like that. You mentioned Nas Reed. You've been on this. It was plus 550 in game one to get 8+ rebounds. He got 8+ rebounds, and he's literally grabbed 8 rebounds in each of the first 3 games of this series. So now the market has gone from 5.5 to 6.5, but you have plus money. And you kind of touched on it, but even though the prop has gone from 5.5 to 6.5, you still think it's worth playing at plus +04?
Yeah, the guy averages versus Minnesota. He averages almost 10 rebounds a game. Granted, it's the playoffs. He's not seeing as many minutes. He only played 21 minutes one of the games. So it's tough. He comes off the bench too, but that's why that's why you probably get this kind of reduced number because he might not be in the game as much as the other guys. But I'm definitely going to keep playing it. Like I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. 3 straight games with 8 rebounds. He had some double-digit. We're one double-digit rebound game away from Naz Reid for him having a legitimate chance to cash this bet. I know I had it at 65 to 1. You found 85 to 1.
65.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely happen. I mean, who's to say that Anthony Edwards is going to continue his, rebounding prowess? So I'm going to be definitely on Naz Reid tonight. Yeah, I had it. I actually played at 6, and it was plus 118 the other night. So 6.5, 104. He's still, that's still 1.5 less than he's been getting. So why not keep it going?
Okay. Another one that's been steady Eddie. Rudy Gobert, 16.5 has been his PRA, points plus rebounds plus assists. It's got a little hairy. Some landed 15, things like that. But he's gone under in all 3. I have liked this play. Now, he did play 30 minutes, I believe, in the last game. But he either lays an egg with the points or rebounds or both. In game one, he was a disaster. I don't know. I'm not sure he's entirely playable given his limitations on offense, and they're better sometimes Minnesota when they go small. Are you at all tempted with under 16.5 PRA here with Gobert, given, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Yeah, I looked at it last game. I heard you talking about it, and I just did not. I didn't pull the trigger just because it does seem so short that he could easily get 9 rebounds and makes a couple layups and foul. But you're right. He's not on the court all the time, like usual. Although he did play, like you said, 30 minutes last game. But yeah, the first game he was before the series. He was minus. I believe he was minus 300 to lead the series in rebounds, and he only had 3 rebounds. So you're right. He was a train wreck, and he's not always guaranteed to be on the court, dependent upon how the game is going. So, yeah, it might be worth a look. I haven't played it yet, but he's not a guy you can rely on. That's for sure. So it would be under a pass. I'm never going to take an over on Gobert, except for that one game against the Lakers where he was the MVP of the league. But besides that,
But you're right. He is unreliable because he's also unreliable on the unders. He might have a bunch of alley oops because the opponent may just leave him wide open. So that's my hesitancy with the unders, just because the number is so low, and he could just not fumble every rebound and every alley oop and actually score.
Yeah, he has to catch the alley oop. It's 50-50 that he's actually going to catch the ball. It's probably less than
Right.
50. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
It's
less,
always
but,
an
like, that's
experiment.
the problem, quote, unquote, "problem" with betting and under is, like, the number's so low, and he is, like, 7 feet tall, and he's, can jump. It's just he's right around the rim, so it's really painful, and it's torturous to bet the under, but there's no chance I would play the over. How about other props? Anybody stand out to you that could be a good play or one you definitely recommend, things like that?
I looked at Caruso. He only had 10 minutes last game, 3 points. He did have 9 points in the first two games. His prop is sitting at eight plus, plus 100, I believe. So I think there's a chance that he's kind of the leader of the team. I really like that interview after the game too, where he kind of came out and said it was such a team. They're such a great team together, and the support they have for each other, and that they were all loving that SGA got the MVP, and just it was. I thought it was a really great interview. And then of course he plays 10 minutes, has 3 points in game three. So I think he's going to have a bit of a pride factor. I think he's also a guy that settles them down. They need a big three. He's kind of there. He's at the top of the key, step in three. He's one of those guys that I think they rely on. And if you look at his stats throughout the year, he only averages 7.1 points a game. But since the post All-Star break, he's averaging 8.8 points a game. And in the last 2 months, he was close. He was over 9 points a game. So I think you get a little bit of value here just based on the fact that he only played 10 minutes. He's going to be good to go. He's probably going to be high energy, probably play a lot more. And just the fact that he was kind of embarrassed on defense, and the fact that he only had 3 points. I think I'm going to probably be on Caruso over 8 points tonight.
I can see that. He is a integral part, and he has that championship experience with the Lakers. So there's a lot to like there. By the way, tear into the action with Bet Rivers prop packs. Place the same game parlay of at least $10 on any NBA game to receive a prop pack, which can win you boosts and bonus credits. And you see there on the screen. Um, if the target score on your prop pack card hits during the game, you win the prize indicated on the card. Head to the Bet Rivers app now to tear into the action. So a lot of good opportunities there. And also the newsletter I've talked about, the last one, 32 pages, tons of links to these podcasts, all the Bet Rivers odds. We have the French Open getting underway. Great breakdown there. There's also soccer previews, tons of good content. Go sign up, bettingweeklystudios.com. So official, Chris, anything on this, anything you said you like the -3, anything official here for this game or
I'm gonna,
tonight's game, 4?
yeah, I'm gonna be my official plays for the game are gonna be OKC money line, under Minnesota team total, which I was able to get it. I got it at 107 and a half plus 100. I was looking for a 108. I couldn't find one, where I was able to get action on it. So I was at under Minnesota team total 107 and a half. OKC money line. I'm going over Naz Reid 6.5 rebounds with a little plus money, and I'm going to be over Caruso 8 points. I saw you had 7.5, so maybe before I actually put that in, I'll see if I can search around, find a 7.5 on Caruso.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so that's good stuff. I am only on Holmgren's under in rebounds. I'll take the adjusted line plus money and go from there. I just think it's a bad matchup. He's a guy who he floats around on the perimeter a lot, so we're good on that in my eyes. I just think that's where the value is in Holmgren, because there's too many other guys and he's light in stature. So right now, at Bet Rivers, it's actually 8.5 -148. Right now I'm seeing on the app. So I'll take that, but under 7.5 at plus +08 as well. So those are two good options at Bet Rivers. You're obviously not on the show tomorrow. So what are your thoughts on this Knicks Pacers situation? With the Pacers are now 2.5 point favorites in game 4 after the big comeback. Knicks get on the board, and the Pacers are -210 on the series price.
Yeah, it was just a crazy fourth quarter. Again, you could see it happening. Just that, Indiana was all out of sorts. And I think what's crazy is Brunson gets the fifth foul, and everyone thinks, oh, the game's over. But what happened was they went bigger, and Indiana had trouble getting inside, so everything was from the outside, and they were just ice cold. They were only 1 of 7 from three, like I mentioned before. Halliburton made a three. They only made five total baskets in the quarter. Three of them were the same exact spot Pascal Siakam had, three 11-foot jumpers, same exact spot. And then Halliburton made another jumper. They got nothing at the rim. They were bailed out on a couple of foul calls that I thought were questionable, where they shot some free throws. They actually made the free throws, but they only have 20 points at home in the fourth quarter, only make five baskets. That's not going to cut it. It's very interesting, though. What's going to go on with the lineup for the Knicks? I mean, obviously, you're going to play Brunson, but it seems like they play better without him. But how long offensively can they sustain without him in the game? Is that going to cause a rift? They kept showing him on the bench in the fourth quarter, and it was like, wow, he's not coming back in the game. They tied it up. What's happening? Maybe Tibbs is, thinking to himself, how long can I push it to make sure we get this win without putting him back in? Granted, he came back in. He had a clutch shot and a couple clutch free throws. It's very interesting. On this game, though, there's no way I'm taking a pre-flop side. It's just been too volatile, and 2.5, one basket either way. That's really not gonna. I mean, I don't think it's gonna come down to that. So Pacers
You don't
have to
like the
improve.
Pacers? You don't like the Pacers at 2.5?
Well, I have. I mean, I'm kind of already heavily invested in the Pacers to win the series. I'm at 25-1 from before the playoffs. So the only thing I would do is kind of sit back and I would probably take a position on the Knicks if the Pacers got up, just because everyone seems to be coming back. These are the two teams that have done it the most. The Knicks have come back three times. Pacers come back three times. I mean, OKC has the one time in there, but and that doesn't count the two other comebacks that weren't over 20 points. So just kind of crazy. So I would kind of sit back. The Pacers are going to improve from three, 5 from 20 from three last game. I don't see that continuing. And we mentioned last time I was on the show talking about this. The only time the Pacers have lost are when they've been under 30% from three. So that's pretty much the key number. If the Pacers are above 30%, they're winning. If they're below 30%, it's a loss. So keep an eye on that early. If they're filling them up in the first quarter, and it's going to be a positive regression for shooting, I maybe get an in game on the Pacers. We were texting last night. I could see early in the game that the Pacers were the better team. I'm not sure exactly what happened in the fourth quarter. It was a weird dynamic with Brunson getting hurt and the big guys coming in, but you could just see it. I mean, they were confident, and you could see they were getting whatever they wanted. And just, I don't know, the switch flipped in the fourth quarter. As Matt was saying last night, we all jinxed it somehow. Everyone jinxed it. Everyone said it was over.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I would pre-flop bet the Pacers. I don't think the Knicks go wire to wire. I do think the Pacers could go wire to wire. You're seeing the. I mean, I know Tibbs played more guys, but the limited bench is showing in these alternating games. And as the series go deep, as the playoffs go deeper, that's when you're seeing. And you got a home team that I think is better talented, and it's just less effort for the Indy to get points than it is the Knicks. I think 2.5 super cheap. I think I would have made this line 4. Again, desperation shot spot in game 3. That's why the line moved to where it moved, and I just don't think it's moved up enough. I think the Pacers have demonstrated they're the better team. They're a championship contender, and I think the Knicks are good, but they're running out of. It's just an ordeal and effort to get points. I think in a lot of ways, especially if Brunson's not going to be his heroic self that we've become accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, it's a great point with the depth. I mean, and like I said earlier, and one of my predictions on the series was I thought they were just going to keep running with them. They should just keep. I mean, just for the Pacers to only have that many points last night, it's kind of pathetic. They had
42 in the
20.
second
What
half.
was it? 22 in the third. Yeah, it's 42 points at home. I mean, you got to get to the rim. There was no. I looked at the shot chart this morning for the fourth quarter, and there was no shots at the rim. There was one miss, and it was just you can't settle for the threes. It's like too many of these teams, and OKC does it. We know the Celtics do it. They just settle for the threes, and when they're not going in, you could just see the whole thing snowball. The Knicks were just going more to the basket and moving the ball. The Pacers were just, they were just launching threes, and it's. I can't stand that type of basketball, and especially when you're rooting for one way or the other, and the team they just refuse to stop doing it. Like the T-Wolves did it in was it game 1 or 2? They just shot a million threes and they weren't going in. Why not change the strategy? It's beyond me why they don't just you know you don't want to waste your timeouts, but when a team is just hucking up threes and they're not going in, something has to be done or changed.
Yeah, they're just too headstrong with this stuff. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But I'm with you, man. I really am. Okay, so good stuff on that. Good to get your insight. Big news in the WNBA. I know there's no games today, but Caitlin Clark's out at least 2 weeks with a quad injury. And again, it's only about 5 games, but again, that's only if it's 2 weeks. So we could see, and there's some weak opponents, but we've had a shift in the betting market at Bet Rivers. Right now, we have an odds-on favorite of Nafisa Collier minus a buck 67 for the Minnesota Lynx, who came within a whisker last year of winning the title in Game 5, a series that the finals went to the distance in overtime. Caitlin Clark is now the second favorite at plus 225. Obviously, there's huge overwhelming interest, things like that, and so, but again, it could be only 5 games, so that she misses, but Collier, understandably, has replaced her as the favorite. She's also undefeated. The Lynx are, as opposed to the Fever, are just 2-2. So a lot of that all makes sense on that front. So we'll see how it all plays out. But Chris, you're 1-0 in your WNBA betting career. That was an over, I believe, in a Fever dream game. So we'll get you more involved moving forward.
Yeah, it's fun. It just I didn't realize how many missed layups that these the girls do. There's just it seems like just
It's
a
one it's
plethora.
one thing you have to get over. Yeah, the one thing you have to get accustomed to
Yeah,
is a lot of
the
the missed
layup,
layups. Yeah.
yeah, layups are they're no gimmies. It's like there's no gimmies. It's just and
Oh no.
they throw them at the backboard. It's extremely hard. It's just I'll have to get used to it. I mean, if it is what it is and you can expect it, it's like when you have the other side and the other team goes up for a layup and there's a good chance you might miss it. So it's like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Well
yeah,
said.
I
You
might have
really
to
have
look.
action. It's crazy. Your first quarter lines and things like that. Every possession is so important, and then you get a missed layup, and you're just like, "What the?"
I do like how
That's the beauty of it.
I do like how they play fast. There's very rarely are they walking it up the court or killing the shot clock.
Yes.
It's just super fast. So it kind of reminds me of like like high school, or it's more exciting than some of these teams that walk it up and bleed the shot clock and then have to do a step back three with no time on the 24. That drives me insane. So I do kind of like the pace of play, and that's why when I was watching that game, I had the over. Like, wow, the pace of this game is great. If they can just make a couple layups, we'd be all set.
Well, there's a lot of new pieces in the offseason, so some of it's continuity and just getting used to in the flow of things. But yeah, there's new coaches in the league right now, and some of them are have become very analytically driven. Like Atlanta has the Florida Gulf Coast coach, if I remember correctly, and they're pushing the pace a lot, even though they have twin towers in Griner and Brianna Jones. But other teams as well, the Sparks definitely want to get up and down. Kelsey Plum is the head of the snake at that, and she's thriving. She had 17 points in the third quarter yesterday, and a nice win for Sparks over the winless Chicago Sky. It's crazy. The expansion team has 2 wins. The Mystics are all of a sudden world beaters, and we have 2 bad teams that are winless. They're facing tomorrow, so we have 5 games tomorrow. One of which is pitting the 2 winless teams against each other. You have the Dallas Wings, somehow I believe, a 4.5 point road favorite somehow against the other bad team. But it should be interesting how it all plays out. We'll break that down tomorrow with Wes Reynolds. He went 4-1 on last week's show, combining WNBA and NBA, and then I went 4-2. So we're seeing the ball well in the W, and this NBA playoffs, well, maybe we'll see another 20-point comeback. I appreciate the stats you had at the beginning of the show. Now you mentioned Naz Reid to lead the series in rebounds, which you have at the beginning, I believe 65-1. Any other long shots at this juncture do you see that have caught your eye, whether it be, I don't know, finals MVP or something along those lines that you think to lead some series scoring leaders or whatnot in these series? Anything come to mind that you've like maybe catch your eye?
To be honest, no, I really haven't. I really haven't been looking into those markets much. And I tell you, betting on an award that gets voted on by contemporaries or whatever, it's just tough. You think you have the right side, but it's just almost like it's a narrative. No matter what the narrative is, that's who they're going to give the award to. So, if OKC wins the title, I mean, obviously SGA is getting the award.
Yeah,
The
I
days
would
of
say
giving
so.
it, the days of giving it to Cedric Maxwell, the 1981 Celtics. I mean, they did give one to Iguodala though one year for the Warriors, which was kind of criminal, I thought. But
Well, I mean,
yeah,
he
I mean, they're
defended
just
LeBron, but you're right. It was a 50-1 long shot.
yeah, so those days are kind of. I don't think you're not seeing much of that. If if maybe you know what, if the Pacers won, maybe somebody besides Halliburton or Siakam could win it. I mean,
Right, I
you
think
never
that's the
know.
one team I think that's the one team where you could see split it up. Knicks
Yeah.
potentially too. Like if Brunson continues to struggle and gets run down, and we look at the futures, it's all about comparing the star player with the team's future. So SGA minus 305. What's OKC? Is it like minus 310? Or something like that? Is it's worth the 5 cents? But I do think that the Pacers are the one team, and it makes sense here. Look at Siakam is the fifth favorite at 25 to 1. And then you have his teammate at plus 650, which makes sense. Halliburton's the rightful favorite, but there is a path, so to speak. I don't think Jalen Williams has any chance. Zero. It would be SGA if they won. I mean, again, Iguodala guarded LeBron, and that was the narrative in that one. What I don't understand is how Hubie Brown, who I love, but he voted Fred Van Vliet the year Toronto won, and everyone else voted Kawhi. So, yeah, you might have one lone wolf or something like that, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty predictable.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal Siakam at 25 to 1. That ain't a bad bet. If he was a little bit more aggressive sometimes, I mean, he doesn't take a lot of
Right.
shots. He's a good player. He's had his moments. I mean, the game two, the Siakam game he was unbelievable. I mean, if he puts
Right.
together 3 games like that in the finals, why not 25 to 1? And that's logical. Considering you got a 2-1 lead, and why not? That's not a bad. I'm not rushing, running down people to bet that right now, but it's not a bad bet. I wouldn't mind popping that bet in before tomorrow's game. If you're very confident that the Pacers are going to win, why not have a little extra juice on a Finals MVP?
That's a great point. He did. You said something that I just want to make sure people heard it. You only need 3 good games and maybe even 2. If it's like by committee in one other game, and then like Halliburton would have a start, you only need 2. And it's not like Halliburton's some lockdown defender anyway. So it's not like he's getting it on the other side of the court. So Siakam, there is a path at 25 to 1. And I mean, just to compare sort of obviously they're not going to get it from a losing team, Jerry West style. So you have to look at the team's championship odds, and the Pacers are 5 to 1. So you have Halliburton plus 650, and then Siakam 25 to 1. Like that's what the distribution of it. Um, so here's a little misprice. OKC is minus 286, and SGA is minus 305. I don't think SGA gets it from the losing team. So I would play the Thunder at minus 286. I would not play SGA. I guess there is a scenario where SGA could go bananas, have triple doubles and things like that, but it's just really far fetched. If he just carries a team and they go 7 or something like that, I do think LeBron should have won it the year that those guys got hurt and whatever. I think there was a year where I would have probably voted for LeBron, and he got some votes on the losing team. With that being said, it's very rare, and I would not touch
Yeah.
SGA at minus 305.
Yeah, I was gonna reference that. Yeah, LeBron. There was a lot of talk that LeBron might win it. But even if you look at Halliburton in the last 3 games, he had 20, 14. He had the big game 31 in game one. But I mean, that's not exactly MVP of the finals numbers. Like you said, you have 1 game or 2 games where Halliburton only has scores in the teens. Maybe Siakam scores 20 points every game in the series. And he's just the most consistent guy, and he grabs 8 rebounds or whatever. So yeah, I mean that seems like a logical. I mean, I can't really see anyone else on the team being consistent for 3 or 4 winning games. But Siakam, why not 25 to 1? I would endorse that for a little bit.
And sometimes with all voting is like voters don't want to be laughed at. Okay. They're humans, right? And so there's a little bit of a sheep component to this, but there's also a smell test component. And so if someone's going to vote for Siakam, it doesn't feel that crazy. I mean, he is an all-star, right? He is a guy who is considered a really good player. So he definitely passes the smell test. And that's just something to consider with the human element of these. And I'm glad we went down this path because these are things to all flush it out. Even if it's like you said, I'm not running over people to bet it, but these are things to think it through. What's the team's championship odds? What's the MVP odds? We talk about this all the time, the Super Bowl MVP for 2 weeks, right? So this is stuff how we process it, but a good exercise, good to flush it out. Every day changes. Good to just keep an eye on these markets, and then you can pounce accordingly. All right, that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks to everyone joining in on the conversation. Don't forget to join in on the comments section. A lot of good content out there. Betting Weekly Tennis Live with Rory Giovanni and Tim Dennis has some in-play thoughts and look ahead to Wednesday's slate at the French Open. That's tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, great angles and picks for Betting Weekly Game Bet and Match and Betting Weekly WTA. That's good content here under the Betting Weekly umbrella on the Bet Rivers Network. So come check us out. And we, of course, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we launched Betting Weekly Hardball, which is 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Chris will be on that later in the week. And Betting Weekly Fast Break, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Wes Reynolds on the show tomorrow. So we'll get to all that. Thanks to everyone who joining in and for everyone behind the scenes who does such a great job with the graphics and making us look good. And Chris Macero, I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here tomorrow.